David Wygant, 10 Minutes of Reality, hanging out with my brother. Last weekend in April. What are you going to do? What are your plans? Tell me. Shoot me an email. Anyway, for those of you that are football addicts like we got to watch the draft, and we got to watch another Jets quarterback.
Another Jets USC quarterback that has a lot of questions coming into the NFL and certainly doesn't have much momentum.
He's got no momentum, but here's the thing, which is interesting, and I think this is the thing about life, the it factor. You know, I've been talking a little bit about the it factor during the week, and I just kind of find that Baker Mayfield went number one, right?
Yes, and it's a personality thing, and it's a belief in his way he goes about his business, that he has confidence that you cannot teach, and that he's got balls, and he's got courage, and I think that's the difference, because the Browns had the first choice. They could have gone with anybody. The question to ask yourself is why they did not choose Darnold. Darnold. They were linked to him the whole offseason. All year last year, that's all you ever heard was Darnold. Next, Andrew Luck. Next, sure thing. And sure enough, here we are, day after the draft, and they took Baker Mayfield.
It's interesting. He was definitely not Andrew Luck. I mean, he did not have Andrew Luck's. He didn't have Andrew Luck's moxie. He didn't have Andrew Luck's stats. He didn't have Andrew Luck's pedigree. He didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, he looks like the Marlboro Man's grandson, because that's exactly what he is. But, I mean, here's what's interesting, right? You look for the it factor. And if you think about people when they're dating, or people when they're going for hiring for a job, right? What are you looking for? You're looking for moxie. You're looking for the it factor. You know, who would you hire to run your company? You hire a guy named Baker Mayfield. Why would you hire a guy named Baker Mayfield? Because Baker Mayfield has that pizzazz, right? You just feel like he can carry the organization or the team on his back. And then you listen to Sam Darnold talk.
He's going to bring something special to the table. And I think that is something that in any industry people look for.
Well, I think in anything. I think in life. I think everybody's looking for an it factor. You know, how many guys, I mean, if you listen, we've been coaching guys for a long, long time, right? And you listen to the way they talk. They have the doubt factor, not the it factor. You know, they go, oh, really? I got to ask her out? Fuck. You know, I didn't know. I thought I just had to talk to her.
Well, you can flick a switch in those guys. And the moment you do and they actually have a moment of success, it can snowball for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, but how do you flip a switch? How does somebody who does, I mean, you look at Baker Mayfield, he has the it factor. Josh Rosen, everybody's like, he throws a perfect ball. You know, we've seen this so many times. A quarterback that falls and falls and falls in the draft and then does what? Comes out and lights the NFL on fire because they're pissed off and annoyed that people made that mistake because they didn't fit a certain mold.
But they're also, and this goes for every quarterback coming into the league, they get developed properly. And they have the right people pushing their buttons because everybody needs it in any field, any job you'd get. If you don't have the right people pushing your buttons, I think it would be very difficult to maximize your ability and maximize your talent.
Well, what if we had the right father?
Everybody can say that.
No, but that's the truth. I mean, not everybody can say that because that's not true. There are people who actually had the right father. They had a father who taught them work ethic, who taught them opportunity,
and gave them, you know, more than one piece of advice in their lifetime, or, you know, told them that this is a trick, this is what you have to do, this is the smart thing to do. And for that, they got a head start. People that had that had a head start. Other people had to learn it.
No, they had the it factor because their father taught them the it factor. I mean, do you remember any advice our father gave us? Do you know the only advice that he ever gave me was don't look at your feet? Do you know what that was about? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
He didn't give you that same awful advice?
No.
So when I went into high school and I wanted to learn how to meet girls, I went to him, Mr. Stud himself, right?
I never went to him.
Right. And
I had an older brother.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to him and he said to me, he goes, don't look at your feet. So I didn't look at my feet. So I stood there and looked right in their eyes and had nothing to say. I mean, there was no confidence. Think about when we were growing up. we were actually decent enough athletes, right? But we were a little wild. You were wild. You were a wild pitcher, right? And I was a wild hitter. I could hit the ball, but no one taught me how to field the ball, because when I was in third grade, we were out in the backyard with Jimmy Greenberg's father, and Dusty hit the ball, and it went off my foot, hit me in the knee, hit me in the balls, and hit me in the lip, and I went down, and instead of him teaching me how to get in front of the ball, he laughed and made fun of me.
Yeah. Well, I think also at a young age, yes, we were wild, and we had some decent ability, but we certainly didn't have the confidence that other kids had whose parents worked with them and showed them things and toughened them up a little bit. For us, we were just like wild. It's like if it didn't work, my brain would go in another direction and be on to the next thing. My whole life, my whole childhood was like that.
Well, yeah, and when your childhood is like that, your life becomes that too.
Yeah, and then you have to teach yourself discipline when you're 30 years old. It's not that easy, but at some point you're either going to sink or you're going to swim.
No, I mean, that's interesting. You're not only teaching yourself discipline, you're teaching yourself the it factor. I truly believe, everybody has the potential to be born with the it factor. Now, don't get me wrong, and you know this and I know this through coaching, we have developed and helped many men and women develop that it factor, because women have it as well too. But the thing is, there's this shit factor that so many people have. The oh shit, right? Oh shit, I can't fucking believe it. Oh shit, I can't do this.
The self-esteem factor, the twit factor.
Oh, it's so true. So, I mean, you can develop these skills, but when you get older, you have to first admit that you do not have these skills. You got to not only admit that you don't have these skills, you have to start working on these skills. And the thing is, people think they can work on it on their own. I mean, if you look at, you just said it before, any good quarterback coming into the NFL, it's all about the coach that puts them into the system, and the system develops them.
The nurturing. And it's a lot of people also want to continue with what they're doing. They might, they might have a decent job, they might be making money, but they're lonely, they're frustrated, they can't meet somebody, but they continually justify, oh, it's not the right time, maybe next month, or it's getting warm out in 3 months, and then I'll really put an effort in, and they never do. And all of a sudden 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years go by, and it's not dealt with. And I think that's the most important thing is, the first step for somebody like that is to recognize it, is to honestly recognize it and knock down whatever beliefs they might have and to ask for help. Because if they're not asking and if they're not truly willing and committed, it's never going to change.
It's so true. It's asking for help, and I believe that everybody has potential. I mean,
we all need help.
Yeah, we all need help. But if you look at all the NFL draft picks today, that are drafted today, that are being drafted tomorrow, that were drafted, yesterday on Thursday, they all have a chance to succeed. It all depends on what system they go into and how much help they get, but how much coaching have they had throughout their whole life? Because that it factor has been taught. Deshaun Watson always had that swagger and that it factor. Jameis Winston has that it factor and that swagger. He may not be the best quarterback fundamentally because he makes mistakes, but he's got that factor. Peyton Manning always had that it factor. And if you look at anybody who's really good at business, at stocks, I mean, that's why we like to show Billions, right? Bobby Axelrod's character has that it factor, while Wags has that follow me factor, right? Because there's always somebody who follows somebody with the it factor and becomes that person's crony. Every it factor guy has a crony.
That character is also highly intelligent as well, and it's not that he has limitations, it's that he recognizes his limitations in leading or whatever it is, and he is smart enough to play a specific role, and it works out great for them. Not everybody's going to be the alpha male, and that's fine. That's fine. Just know, we all got something special to give. There's absolutely more than enough people out there that would receive it and would give back. And it's not just the men. Men, you're lonely. There's for every lonely man, there's a lonely woman out there as well.
There is, and not everybody's going to be alpha. The world cannot be full of alphas.
The world
but
would be insane if it was.
would be insane because everybody would be fighting each other. But if you look at some of the beta guys, you know, I mean, I wouldn't look at Bill Gates and make him the poster child for a fucking alpha male. I mean, he looks like Woody Allen's cousin, you know, but he has that it factor. You know, he has that at Steve Jobs. I wouldn't fucking, you know, look at Steve Jobs when he was alive and think, yeah, there's an alpha guy. It was definitely alpha in certain ways, but he was also beta in a lot of his relationships on a lot of things. So you could be half alpha, half beta. You know, you could be this tech guy that rocks Silicon Valley and, you know, you're unbelievable and you could be alpha that way. You could be head of the geeks.
Yeah, you could be, you know, Monday through Friday, the biggest stud in the office. And then the moment you leave the office and it comes down to you connecting with people, you absolutely could need a ton of help and, you know, barriers to get past. So, you know, just because you do so well, you know, during the day and you're super successful, sometimes it doesn't carry over to your personal life.
Okay. So how do people get the it factor now? Because most people listening right now either have it or don't have it. How do they get the it factor? How do they get away from the oh shit factor?
Coaching, training, the ability to be honest with themselves and committed to what the hell they want to change in their lives, not to bullshit themselves and waste another 3 years.
There you have it, man. Well, enjoy the draft. Enjoy the weekend. 10-minute daily reality check coming back to you on Monday, as always. My brother will probably do one more episode, and then we'll send him back to the it factor of New York.
Enjoy your weekend.